Welcome to part three of Senior Seminar. Part three, we're going to talk about post-secondary plan options. Post-secondary is a term that we use for any kind of education or anything that you do after high school. Another name for high school that's sort of an old name is secondary school. Elementary used to be primary, high school was secondary. So anything after that is called post-secondary. So what are you going to do when you finish high school? That's what this is about. When you're choosing a career, you want to make sure that you choose something that will pay your bills, something that you can survive on. That's one of the most important things. You want to make enough money to have at least a reasonably comfortable lifestyle. But even bigger than that, it's not so much about the money as it is having a career that interests you. Whether you make a ton of money or make just enough to get by, if you like your work, your overall adult life will be much happier. In some cases, you will work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You want to make sure that that's something that you enjoy or see at least something that you are skilled at. So have the skills to be successful in the career you choose, and you must be willing to complete the education necessary to have that job. I speak to lots of students who have really high aspirations, but academically they are not setting themselves up to be successful to take all of the courses that they're going to need in order to reach that goal. So be very realistic about your personal expectations regarding education as you're choosing a career. So why do you want to continue your education beyond high school? First of all, without a high school diploma, your options are very, very limited. After you finish that high school diploma, that does expand a little bit. In general, more education equals higher pay. But be aware, that is not straight across the board. Depending on what program you go into, a technical program that takes 6 months up to 2 years can sometimes pay more than a bachelor's degree, which is a 4 year degree. So it's not just about the education lining up specifically with the money. At one point, that was the case, but a lot of technical programs do offer quite good benefits and pay. So you want to look at those options as well, particularly if you don't want to be in school for years and years and years after high school. Look at something that's technical. There are also lots of technical programs that can lead you to higher education should you want that later. What are your options after high school? One of them is going directly into the workforce. The second we are going to look at is the joining the military. Then there is technical or vocational training, 2 year college degrees, 2 year and then transfer to 4 year program, which is what another name for that is a 2+2, and then 4 year college or university. So let's look at each one of these for just a little bit. So workforce, as I said before, your ability to earn enough money to live comfortably is directly related to your level of education. I would strongly recommend that everyone have a plan for some kind of post-secondary education. I speak to students a lot who say, I'm going to take 6 months or a year off and then I'm going to come back. Or they say, I'm going to take a gap year. And let me address that briefly. About half of the students who say they're going to go back to school don't ever go back to school. You get out of the practice of being a student, you get used to having that paycheck, and when you have to cut back on your hours to go to school, some people just they're not willing to do that. Also, the term gap year has really taken on a lot of life in the last few years. A gap year is more than just a year off from school. A gap year is planning a specific project or area of study that you want to do outside of college, or you want to volunteer somewhere, or you want to get some work done preparing yourself for whatever career it is. That's what a gap year is. So, think very long and hard before you decide you're going to take a break, because a lot of those students don't go back. Okay. On to our next bullet here. 66% of jobs are in these categories, in the categories of high school diploma or less than a high school diploma, going directly into the workforce. but be aware that your income is generally limited to 20 to 35,000 a year. There are exceptions. There are some who make more. There are some who make less. So that's sort of in the middle. That's what the pay would be if you just go directly into the workforce. As I said on the previous slide, some of the best paying jobs require 2-year degree or vocational training. So you really want to know what's going to be expected when you finish your training, finish your career, or excuse me, your college. The second one is military service. When you are going into the military, they have a very specific procedure that you go through. You start by contacting a recruiter. They, in past years, have come to the Bayshore cafeteria. We are very limited in visitors because of the pandemic. So you can reach out to a recruiter in the public. You can look it up on Google or whatever search engine you want to use. Get in touch with them. They generally have an application. You have to send them a high school transcript, and the military does expect students to complete their high school diploma. There was a point when they would accept students who did not graduate, but at this point, they're pretty stuck on everyone getting a diploma before they join the military. You also need to take a test called the ASVAB, which stands for Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's basically the placement test for military. They give you this series of tests, and based on your results, they would assign you to whatever job you would have in the military. This is going to be offered on the Bayshore campus at some point during the year, but you can also speak to a recruiter to try to get in to take the ASVAB earlier if you would like. Technical or vocational training. You look at the websites for those schools. The local schools are MTC, which is Manatee Technical College. Or if you would also like to look at other options, you can go to SCTI, which is Sarasota County Technical Institute in Sarasota. You see what programs they have. If they have a program you're interested in, you select their program. You go to an information meeting. MTC has those. I'm pretty sure SCTI has those as well. There's an application you need to complete. Sometimes there's a paper application, but all of them also have an online application that you do. You will send in your transcript. You have to take their placement test, which is the TABE, or there is some other test that you might need to take. The TABE, T-A-B-E, stands for Test of Adult Basic Education. I believe we're going to be offering that test at Bayshore this year, but if we're not, you can also contact MTC or SCTI to take the test with them as needed based on their requirements. So that's technical or vocational training. And this is a program that generally is going to be 6 months up to the longest of 2 years. Most of the programs are 6 months or a year, but some go to 2 years. 2-year college. This would be a school like SCF, which is right next door to us, State College of Florida. These schools have open access. If you apply to the school, you will be accepted to the school. Okay. You can complete a 2-year program studying an Associate of Science degree. That's what the AS stands for. You apply in the fall, or you can wait until spring. And it would be a school like, as I said, SCF or Valencia Community College in Orlando, or Santa Fe Community College, or Hillsborough Community College. So that you would apply in the fall or spring. If you are a college student, if you're taking early college classes at SCF or USF, please do not apply to the school until spring, okay, until after your spring classes have started. But if not, you can apply in the fall. There's a placement test you may need to take. The school will let you know if you need to take that. It would either be the PERT or the ACT or the SAT. We may be having application workshops. Again, we are limited in the number of visitors we're allowed to have on campus. There will be announcements if there is an SCF application workshop. And then after high school, you send your transcripts to the college. For high school transcripts, you will need to send what's called a final transcript. That will not be available until probably June after you graduate in May. But at the graduation practice, at one of the graduation practices, we will have you complete the form to request that transcript. That way it'll be there, and when the transcripts are finalized, our registrar can send the final transcript to the school. So that is a 2-year program, an AS, an Associate of Science degree. There's also the 2+2 plan, which is a 2-year transfer to a 4-year. Most of our 2-year schools have a direct connect with a college or university in Florida. Our next door neighbor, State College of Florida, they have a direct connect with USF in Tampa, University of South Florida. I believe they also have some connections with Florida Gulf Coast, which is in Fort Myers. If you're looking at transferring to one of the larger schools in the state, UCF, you would want to go to Valencia Community College or Valencia College, and then transfer to UCF. Students who would like to eventually go to University of Florida, they can attend Santa Fe Community College or Santa Fe College, and then transfer to University of Florida. Santa Fe is in Gainesville. If students who are interested in Florida State, they could start at Tallahassee Community College, TCC, for their first 2 years and then transfer to a 4-year school. The process is still the same. You would take the placement test, if needed, and you would send them the high school transcript. And with all of those schools, they do have that open enrollment for students who apply. So that is for a 2+2 plan. So you're 2 years at a 2-year school, you transfer to a 4-year school to finish that 4-year college degree. For those of you who want to go directly to a 4-year college or university, you will probably need the SAT or ACT in order to be accepted. And these schools, be aware, they have selective criteria. If you have not completed certain courses or have a certain GPA, you will not be able to be accepted at these universities. That's part of why some students do a 2+2. So you look at your GPA, and if it's not strong enough, you can apply and do the 2+2. For in-state public schools, all of those schools, require that you take a college prep math courses. Liberal arts math is not a college prep math course. So you would need to go through Algebra 2 and possibly beyond, and 2 years of world language. So 2 years of ASL or 2 years of Spanish at our school. If you wanted to take different courses, you would already have started those on Florida Virtual. Private 4-year colleges have similar criteria to the public schools, but you need to make sure you check their websites to see what those requirements are. Same thing goes for anyone who wants to go out of state. Their policies will be stated on their websites. So if you're interested in going to those schools, that would be where you would check. They all have deadlines for applying and for scholarship consideration. Make sure you spend some time looking carefully at all the information on those websites if you're interested in going to a 4-year university. A general rule is to apply for a 4-year university by Halloween. Some schools have that as a specific deadline, and you can see up here in the corner, Florida State, USF, UF, UCF, and Florida Poly, they all want you to apply by November 1st. The other schools have what's called rolling admission. And rolling admission means that when they have a complete application packet, they will evaluate you then. So there's not one set date for all of that. Many of these schools also require you to complete a self-reported academic record, otherwise known as an SRAR. In the SRAR, you log into your account and you enter all the courses that you took while you were in high school and the courses that you're currently taking. You can look to see what the specific requirements for the schools you're interested in by viewing their websites. They have very similar web addresses, or at least a similar type of address. For example, USF in Tampa is usf.edu. These sites are going to end in edu, and it's usually some shortened version of the name of the school. So application strategies, if you're going for a 4-year university. For 2-year and for technical, you can look at these as well, but they apply more to the the 4-year schools, apply to several schools that meet your needs. If you have one that's sort of your dream school, apply to that one, and then you can apply to one or two others as well. But make sure you meet their basic requirements for regarding coursework, GPA, and test scores. If you don't meet those, or especially if you don't meet them in multiple areas, it's going to be very difficult for you to be accepted at that school. You also want to complete your financial aid paperwork for federal and state financial aid. Both of those applications open October 1st of 2021. That is the FFAA, the Florida Financial Aid Application, and the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. Lots of messages are being posted to Schoology regarding this. There's also more information about FFAA and FAFSA in, uh, in other presentations in this series. You evaluate the choices that you've made after you get responses. If the answer is no, you have your answer. If the answer is yes, then you have a choice to make if you're accepted at more than one school. In some cases, you may be deferred to a later date. And that's not a no, that just means they're not ready to say yes yet. And read that, if you get a deferment notice or read it very carefully because they will tell you what they're looking for. Maybe they want your grades to go up, maybe they want your test score to be better or your GPA to be higher. So that deferment is not a bad thing, but it does tell you what you need to improve in order to meet the requirements and possibly be accepted. So you make your final selection and reply yes to that school. And for other schools who accepted you, make sure you let them know you are not coming, because then they can accept a student in your place. These are some college and career resources. Please make sure you use them. I've been speaking to my students about these, and I'm sure the other counselors have as well. Florida Shines has links to the college websites. You can visit the college to see if the school is a good fit. It's got a lot of information that can help you with public or private, admission requirements, cost of attending, do they have your major, what are the extracurricular activities. If you really don't know what you want to do as a career, please go to mynextmove.org and complete the ONET interest profiler. It's a 60, I believe it's 60 something questions. You answer those, and based on that, it gives you some careers you may want to consider. So if you really don't know, go to My Next Move. You can also go to bigfuture.collegeboard.org, which has a lot of good information. It's put out by the College Board, which is the SAT folks, for college and career planning. If you're looking just for general statistics, because we talked earlier about how much money you may make in a career, go to bls.gov. That is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it talks about how much money you would make, how much training you need, what is the outlook for this job? Are they looking to need more people doing this kind of work or less? That's an important factor to know. You don't necessarily want to go into a career that is shrinking rather than expanding. And then if you wanted some information on Florida health careers, there's FLA HEC, Florida health careers information is right there. Okay, so lots of resources there. Please make sure that you use them. You don't want to go out into life blindly. You want to have some information, some knowledge, and have some decisions and a plan. We've reached the end of part 3. Thank you so much, and have a great day.